Hey, this is Michael Emery. Thanks for tuning into the Slow Baja. This podcast is powered by Tequila Fortaleza, handmade in small batches and hands down my favorite tequila. You know, I've long said it. Ask your doctor if Baja's right for you. Well, you got to check out the Adventures tab at slowbaja.com. The Slow Baja is from February 23rd to March 1st. It's a slow roll from the beautifully rustic Rancho La Bayota to stunning San Ignacio and back up to sunny San Felipe. We're going to have one full week to explore some of my favorite places and meet some of my favorite people. We're going to have 2 nights in San Ignacio, and everybody's going to get to go whale watching. You know, those gray whales in the San Ignacio Lagoon are noted for their curiosity and friendliness, so be prepared for them to get up close and check you out. And I'm proud to say I'm going to be doing a little giving back on this trip. My friend Matthew Schnitzer, the founder of Barbers for Baja, you know the great work they do sending kids to college. Well, he's on board, and we're excited to launch our new project delivering desperately needed baseball gear to teams and coaches up and down the peninsula. And we will make our first gear donations on the Slow Baja. You know, it's not the longest or the largest or the most miles. It's the slowest and the best miles, and hopefully the most smiles. Okay, for more information, check out the Slow Baja at slowbaja.com. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You can always reach me through the contact link at slowbaja.com. And remember, the Slow Baja is open to 4x4 vehicles of any age. Got a 2-wheel drive that you think you can make it? Well, let's talk. Once again, that's the Slow Baja, February 23rd through March 1st, 2024. Help me keep Baja slow on the Slow Baja. You know, I'm a minimalist when it comes to Baja travel, but the one thing I don't leave home without is a good old paper map. My favorite is the beautiful, and I mean beautiful, Baja Road and Recreation Atlas by Benchmark Maps. It's an oversized 72-page book. It's jammed with details. It brings the peninsula's rugged terrain into clear focus. Get yours at benchmarkmaps.com. In fact, get 2. One for your trip planning at home and one for your Baja rig. Hey, big news. Benchmark just released the 2nd edition of the Baja Road and Recreation Atlas. They are always striving to improve these maps, and they've added a bunch of new features, bunch of places of interest, including the Cheneth Legacy Lodge. It wasn't on the first printing of the map. It's there now. It's awesome. You can see it right there in Persaboo. Get your brand new 2nd edition of the Baja Road and Recreation Atlas from benchmarkmaps.com. And while you're at benchmarkmaps.com, you got to check out all their other atlases. I think they're up to 17 now, including British Columbia. They've got folding maps. They've got digital maps. They've got giant wall maps. My favorite, and I've got it up on my wall right here at Slow Baja HQ, is a 30-inch by 46-inch Baja wall map. It's so great to just look at one thing and see the entire peninsula there. I love it. Benchmarkmaps.com, Slow Baja approved. Hey, it's a new year, but mentally, I gotta tell you, I'm still thinking about Thanksgiving, and I want to thank everyone who dropped a taco in the tank in 2023. And I know you want to get on with the show, and I want to get on with the show, but I'm going to put a list of everybody who donated in the credits, and I really have to say deep and sincere thanks. All right, well, my heaping dose of gratitude today goes out to all those who dropped tacos big and small into the tank. And you know, I'm a shoestring operation. I sincerely hope you know that by now. I am. Let me look behind the curtain here. I am a tiny shoestring operation, and every taco helps. But I do need to take a second and mention the special folks whose generosity in the taco dropping department astounds me and demands a mention on the air. So just indulge me here. John Alderson and San Catine, thank you. Amigo Joe Dean, we had so much fun on the Nora 1000. Thanks for your generosity, Joe. Kevin Garamat, can't wait to have you on the Slow Baja Vintage Expedition in October and your beautiful Scout. Thank you, Kevin. Stephen Bixby, yeah, we had some good times in the Land Rover crew out from New England. Thank you, Stephen. Gregory Santos, thank you, amigo. David Carlo, continuing his long time support for Slow Baja from Alaska. Thank you, David. Eric Lippincott, the coolest cat in Colorado, puts pop tops in Land Cruisers. Thank you for your support, Eric. Stuart and Sherry McMillan up there in Canada, thank you for supporting me and listening. Thank you, Stuart and Sherry. Derek Boykes probably has his head under a $20 million vintage Ferrari right now. Derek, thank you for your support. The best mechanic in the land. Hope to get you on my next trip. Thank you, Derek. Kevin Bradburn, thank you. Amigo Barry Ward, thank you. Andrea Gilio, you will always be Irv Hank's daughter to me, the banquet bronco from the very first Mexican 1000s. Thank you, Andrea, for your support. Tim Price, thank you, amigo. Richard Law, you got to get down to Baja, amigo. You got to get down to Baja. Thanks for your support. Daniel Robbins, thank you. And Jeff LaPlante, LA car guy. Get into Hawthorne, LA, South Bay Porsche. Buy a Porsche from Jeff so he can continue to support Slow Baja. I know it's kind of a roundabout thing, but thanks, Jeff. Appreciate the support. All right, today's show, I got to tell you, I don't know seriously, if any responsibility I have in recording these conversations. Maybe I should put up a disclaimer, but Hallie and Austin actually started listening to the show while they were living up north in frigid Wisconsin, and they decided to blow up their life, sell their business, sell their house, and move to Baja with their children. So I got to see them about a year ago after they'd been down there for a few months, and it's really a beautiful thing. So before I take any credit for anything that happened, I'm going to let the Ashleys tell you the story. So without further ado, here's Hallie and Austin Ashley today on Slow Baja.
All right. Hello.
Greetings.
So odd.
Welcome.
So odd. I've done this thing for 3 years now without going solo everywhere, where I'm just fumbling for everything. Now I got a guy making me look good, making me sound good,
Great.
and I'm just delighted to meet you guys in person finally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Us too.
And thanks for hosting us last night. Had a nice little dinner and beautiful Fortaleza fueled cocktail and home baked brownies. That was the height. That was the hit.
Picanas.
Yeah. Got to meet Otis and Fern, Opal. Hey, well, all right. Well, let's get on with it. Hey, we're in San Juanico. I'm with Austin and Hallie, Ashley, and I'm just going to set it up. I don't know what happened. I don't bear any responsibility for this. It's not my fault. They started listening to Slow Baja. They sold their house in Wisconsin, and they moved to Baja, and they're here. We're here at their beautiful house in San Juanico, and that's all I know about these guys. And we're just going to have a fun conversation. We've got a half hour before we hit the road north on the dirt road to San Ignacio, and we're going to get to know the Ashley family a little bit and hear what it's been like 3 months in now.
Yeah.
3
4
months
months.
in. 4 months in from relocating from snowy Wisconsin.
Yes.
6 degrees today. Is that what you said? Back
yeah,
home?
6 degrees in Viroqua today.
And
Fahrenheit.
We're freezing here at 65 degrees or something, whatever it is. So, hello, Austin.
All right.
Say
Yes,
hello.
sir. Hello.
So, what the hell happened?
Well, I mean, you're not totally responsible, but you really helped wire some things, as they say in the surfing world, coming down here. I found out I was really obsessed with gray whales. I'd read an article probably in 2019, and I just loved the story. It was actually about Pachico Meral, lived in San Ignacio and owned Pachico Whale Tours. And I kind of went down this rabbit hole reading everything and watching documentaries about him and so forth. And we're like, well, we're going to sell our business. Or actually, at first we were like, well, we're going to go for like 6 weeks. And then we're like, 6 weeks doesn't sound long enough. And like, man, I think we need to sell the business. And so we put it up for sale and probably had 16 people look at my business, and I ended up selling it within like 3 months.
And this is a business that you conceived of, birthed, everything. The two of you ran it. You had a partner, as I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it was a beverage company that I started it squeezing one lime at a time. And I went from one lime to barrels of limes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Hallie,
Yeah.
say hello.
Hi. That was also COVID. There was a COVID during that time, and it just made that external forcing of a big change makes you review your life. And we were like, what do we want to do here? We still want to be in Wisconsin.
Yeah. And
so we started planning this trip. The Land Cruiser got it started.
Yep. Started driving around my FJ60, and I was like, oh, it had a 5-inch lift, old man emu, all that stuff, Kmart, gas cans. It just was the expedition dream car.
It had a bed. Well, it had a bed built in the back. And then we convinced the kids that it would be really fun if mom and dad slept in the back of the truck, and they would sleep in a tent with the dog. And they liked that.
Yeah.
They bought that story?
Yeah.
They did.
So we kept camping, and we're like, oh. But it just kept. I kept reading like Expedition Portal or whatever, and I was like, man, I've always wanted to go to Baja.
That'll do it. Yeah.
And then that whale thing on top of it, and it just solidified the whole thing. And then of course listening to all your podcasts and stuff, and
it was a year of Baja. Every documentary, every YouTube video, all the podcasts. It was winter, and I was fueling my winter February walks and negative temps, hearing
yeah.
the Slow Baja podcast. Some of them I'd listened to multiple times, especially the e-viewing ones. I really
I was just
loved
going to
those.
say, I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I hope you listened to e-viewing. She was such
both of them. Yeah,
she was such a delight to talk to, and to try and corral her into staying on track was just it was amazing. She's an amazing woman. I should stop and see her every time I go through San Diego.
I would love to listen to that.
That was great.
And then when we started getting closer to the reality of coming down, Austin sold the Land Cruiser to buy the truck that would fit the truck camper, that would fit the four of us, and we could comfortably live in for 4 or 5 months. And we had all of our spots picked out that we really wanted to explore. We ended up meeting a lot of people that we heard their podcasts with you.
Yeah.
We booked a whale tour with Sherry Bondi. We met Trudy.
It's
in
real.
Loretto. Yeah. And then one really fun was Benito.
Benito.
Yeah. The most interesting man in all of Todos Santos, isn't he?
He was fascinating, and just to talk to him, I mean, he's 74 probably or something like that. So his pocket of art and Mexican art is really fun to talk to him about. Yeah.
We hung out with him, like, was it 2-3 days? We just wandered in his studio, and then the kids kept them, when are we going to go talk to that guy again? And so we kept going, and hearing his story actually really inspired us to, like, make the leap, because he said he kind of did a similar thing with his family, and he thought it was the best thing he'd ever done. Like, he had lived in his house for 20 years. He sold everything to move to La Paz is actually where he lives, and then do his art here on the peninsula.
Yeah, there's probably like 4, maybe 6 English-speaking kids here right now, and they all go to the school here, so that's useful. But it's still a little bit difficult on some people.
Do you want to elaborate, Hallie? Not that he said it was difficult on anyone specifically, but you could expand on that, or Otis?
We have one of our children loves Mexico, loves new things. She'll try any food you put in front of her. She's so fun to travel with. When we were on the East Coast, lobster ice cream. I'm like, Fern, you want to try that? She's like, yeah, I'll try it.
Otis is more of a mac and cheese, pizza, give me a quesadilla kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he longs for familiarity. He's kind of Wisconsin through and through, loves the Packers. So but we've been here 4 months. They've been in school 5 weeks. So he's finding more and more joy. He enjoys sports, so playing soccer works well. And having the other community here was key. We wanted to find a place that wasn't. We felt the same thing in Todos. Like, it didn't appeal because we like small towns.
We do like small towns.
That we learned that living in our previous place. We lived there for 17 years in our small town in Wisconsin, Viroqua.
It took us a long time to get used to that. Yeah.
And then once you understand how small towns work, you start to appreciate the qualities of having the small conversations, seeing the same people loop in through, and how that kind of adds value, even if you wouldn't call them, they're like more than acquaintances, because it's not like you have them over for a meal, but you saw them for 10 years, 4 times a week at least. And so this place had a few other families that are in the same boat, that like living simply, living remotely, and spending as much time as you can outside. So that felt like a good fit.
So break down the nuts and bolts. You sold your place.
Yep.
We don't need to tell people how to sell a place at home.
Nope.
So you sold your place. You've got your truck.
Probably should have done it 6 months ago, though, if you're thinking about it now.
Yeah, exactly. You got your camper, and you took a bit of a tour to get here. So had you bought this before you left?
I put money down on it, and I gave the lady an offer, and that
So
was a
let's-
little tricky.
So let's walk through that. You decided that San Juanico was the place,
Mm-hmm.
and how did it go from there?
Well, we found a fella here through my friend Travis.
Travis Gardner, shout out.
Fellow Texan. Yeah, he pointed us to Dave Steibel, who's a builder here, really great guy, and just had him drive us around looking at properties here, and this was kind of like, I don't know, we kind of looked at it and we're like, oh man, that's kind of it. It's not perfect. It needs work, you know. That's kind of our way we operate. So then it was really great because Dave's like, well, how do we, you know, what do we do to negotiate or talk with her? And she's like, just drive over there and talk to her. I'm like, wait, you're not coming? And he's like, no. I was like, all right.
He's
okay.
like, let me know if you agree on anything.
Yeah,
We're like, okay.
and I really like that independence, you know, just being like kind of human almost versus like, you know, you can hide behind real estate agents and you don't have to discuss with people,
Right,
which is nice and not nice, you know.
right.
But the couple that built this was their retirement home,
Mhm.
and she was feeling like she couldn't live so remotely anymore. She's getting up in age and needed
With a pacemaker.
needed some services, so she needed to let it go and kind of move on. And so that's they did an awesome job building it and hiring great builders in town. It's pretty unique stonework and tile, so it's got a lot of character. We like that.
Yeah. So, Otis, you want to say hello? No? All right. I was going to ask you how you like the school and how you like coming to a new place.
Otis is showing me a shark tooth. Is that your new favorite hobby, living near the
Oh, yeah.
ocean?
Maybe.
So, elaborate a little bit.
Yeah,
You-
yeah.
As you said, you bought this from Americans who had had it built locally, and then
Mhm.
they decided that it was time for them to move on. I don't know where they went, but
Well, she kept telling us that she is 80 years old and she's got 1 foot on the banana peel. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I know what you mean, sister.
got 1 foot on
I
the
like
banana
you, and
peel.
I really want to buy your house just because you said that.
Her husband had already passed,
Okay.
and there's a lot. She didn't, to maintain a big house property like this was too much.
But what could we elaborate on for you? Sorry.
No, it's just, so you made a deal,
Yeah.
and then you took the plunge.
Yeah, I
Oh,
got a
so-
lawyer in town. They came out to Second Point, and we talked to them, signed some papers, and played guitar together. And it was not an American experience at all. It was really awesome. We're singing and having a good time.
And what advice, what concerns, what'd you go through? Did it go smoothly? You had the lawyer, you went to Second Point, you played a little guitar.
Yeah. I mean,
She had her 1 foot on the banana peel.
then we, we're like, hey, we're gonna buy this place, and then that fucking hurricane came through, and I was like, oh my god. So the fence isn't exactly the way it was when we offered the money, which kind of sucked, but it's good enough, my motto is like, if you can get 80% within proximity of your ideal, you're doing good. 20%, you can lose that. It's okay.
And you can figure that out.
You can figure it out. Yeah, totally.
All right. And Hallie, what are the pros? What are the cons? How have you changed, if you have at all? How have you adapted 4 months here? Are you breathing more?
Breathing more. I do love that I can be outside so much more, and that our favorite pastime, driving down on the beach to watch the sunset pretty regularly, feels like such a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never lived by the ocean, so I just love learning. Like, the beaches here are pretty remote, and so what washes up is we touched a whale that washed up, and we tried to help it, but it
A dwarf sperm whale.
it couldn't be helped. But we all got the experience of being a part of that. Its skeleton is on the beach right now, so then you watch the vultures devour it when you go down, and that's been, how much time that takes. And the kids are digging through the shell, finding lots of shark teeth, and the
Bare
summer
feet.
activities are surfing, which that'll be a whole new. I mean, Austin surfs now because he's experienced and doesn't mind putting on the wetsuit. We all have them, but we don't use ours as much as Austin. Right now, I'm still maybe in the romance phase. I basically love it so much. I love it. I love that our life is simpler. We did work for many years for little pay, starting that business, and then being able to kind of reap the benefits now of our time. But we've always lived frugally, and that's allowed us to be where we are now, where we have time with our family.
Big pro.
Can we talk about Fern and Otis ages?
Fern's 10, Otis is 8, but we're seasoned parents with a 20-year-old,
Yeah.
where we basically learned all our lessons.
We realized when we started the Baja trip, it was kind of a little bit of a catalyst of like, oh yeah, they're gonna hate us in like 6 years. You know, they go through this mode where they're
3.
like, oh, you
Middle school.
suck.
Sorry.
Yeah. And oh, you suck, you know, and it's like, oh, okay. So that was kind of part of the other reason to come down here and just kind of spend open-ended time with them and, you know, get to know each other in a open-ended state. So.
Well, our son graduated high school, and he worked for our company, and then we said, it was getting sold. We're like, okay, bud, we're going to go to Baja. We're going to rent the house out so you can come with us. We'll get a bigger camper, or you got to move out. And so that was...
Wait, can't I just have the house? Nope, I'm going to rent the house out. Sorry, buddy.
So
He's 20, right?
He's
20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So
well,
he got an
good
apartment.
Change. Good change.
Yeah,
he was
he's
kind of
doing great.
forced. So it was good for everyone. So then he didn't want to. He never been to Mexico because we were young when we had Alden. So our travel fund was basically wherever we could drive. So we did a lot of road trips, but he hadn't been. So he didn't want to miss out on that. He likes travel. He's curious. We flew him down and met him in Loretto. And we camped with him. We made it work in our camper. Austin slept in the back of the truck. We camped on the Bay of Concepcion with him and took him to San Javier and took him whale watching in San Ignacio. And so he got the experience that we were a 2-week version of what we did for 4-5 months.
Let's get into some particulars and some worries that, maybe somebody would say, like, where do you go for the hospital? How, what do you have to do? You're out here in the middle of nowhere.
Well, about 2 hours away from a good, okay hospital, I guess, and then you could go to La Paz, which is 4.5 hours.
So is that Constitucion?
Yeah, you go Constitucion or La Paz, and then there's the neighbor who just sutured up a guy.
The neighbor is the lifeguard. He's got some skills.
But you could go to the Farmacia too, and she sutures people up, and you just try not to hurt yourself too bad,
Well, we have heard, you guys got to go know Pete. He's an ex-paramedic and has all the equipment, so you got to know where he lives. But we actually don't know where he lives yet, but we have met him.
We've also heard stories about a guy that used to be here that died and lived in Caraje, and his name, they called him Dr. Tecate, and he was a doctor and like a bush doctor. But they call him, I was like, why do you call him Dr. Tecate? They're like, because every time he answered a door, he's holding a Tecate in his hand.
Like that's a problem. And Hallie, can you elaborate on the school process? What was it like to get your kids enrolled in local school? And it's just K through 8?
No, there's a high school.
There's a high school now. Okay.
Yeah. So
let me back up. I shouldn't say there's a high school now. So it's K through 8?
And a high.
Sorry.
Their school.
Tell me about their school. Tell me about more coffee. No, tell me about the process. What did it take for you to get enrolled in the school?
Well, so honestly, the biggest thing, Austin and I are learning Spanish. So but I met a family back in May when we were here, and I was like, okay, I could be friends. They have children. She speaks Spanish, and she recommended the school, and I trusted, I guess, all my intuition on that, and. I asked her, I texted with her when we were back in the States. I was like, we're heading down. Can you let the school know for me? She's like, oh no, just show up. And so I did. I was like, all right. And so when we came, I let the kids kind of get used to the big change. Fern was like, I'm ready to go to school now. And Otis is like, I need 2 more months at home. And so it was kind of a in between there that we enrolled them. And so they're 5 weeks in. and it's really sweet. It's the thing about Mexico is that the days are a lot shorter. There's a lot.
Which the kids like.
It's like 8 to 12:30, and we get to all come home and have a meal together, and then
Then Dad takes a nap.
As you
Austin's
should.
taking-
That's the law. That's actually the law.
Austin's really taken to the Mexican custom.
I've always been this way.
And it's full immersion. So when I communicate with the teachers, it's I'm translating on Google to send them text and then translating their text back to me. And so right now it's going well.
But first you read it and you're like, oh yeah, let me see what I can learn here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then you translate it like, oh, I was right.
Yep. All their writing is in. Fortunately, both of our kids, we haven't raised them with a lot of device access, so reading is their main form of entertainment. So they have a good solid background in reading, and so their writing in their notebooks are full of. It's written in Spanish, and I know they don't really totally understand what it means, but they're learning. I mean,
That's awesome. It's really awesome.
Yeah.
And you've got grocery stores, and you've got, you can make a life here pretty easily, frankly.
Yeah.
It's not like you're having to raise your own barnyard animals or anything. It's really, it's pretty civilized.
Butter's
For
kind of hard to get, but yeah.
grass-fed, Kerry from Ireland. Okay. Butter's important.
For this family, yep.
Yeah. From Wisconsin.
well, I do a lot of baking, and
Yeah.
I don't like using margarine, so they tend to. I had to seek out and learn the butter sources, but now I know, and I just when I'm in the city, you just buy 5
Mantequilla.
pounds.
Mantequilla.
Mine 5 pounds at once and just keep it in the freezer.
Any other tricks to surviving here, Austin?
Yeah, what is a trick? I mean, making friends, but that's pretty easy. I mean, people are so cool here. Even, people, if you speak Spanglish, you're just meeting locals, and I was just talking to somebody kind of in broken. I was holding somebody else's baby. Somebody came up speaking Spanish, and they're like looking at the baby. They're super happy, and then they reach down in the floorboard and handed me a lobster.
Wow.
And I handed the other guy the baby, and then I joked around and I was like bouncing the lobster like it was a baby, and Osprey carrying a mullet. Anyway, it's just
It's
they're
that.
so much fun,
It's
man.
that.
Yeah,
It's
just-
that.
And right now,
It's that pace of life
Mhm.
that allows the small gestures and
Mhm.
the kindness that you were touching on earlier from your days in Wisconsin, being in a small town. But it's real here. It's real here,
it's so
and it's
real.
being even extended to the new guys, the
Yeah.
gringos, and that's an amazing thing, isn't it?
It is amazing. I mean, I would just shout out total that I'm from South Texas, and like Mexican pockets of Mexican culture are just like that, and you're just grateful to be around them. They treat you like family, and they're just good solid human beings,
And you've made some friends here already.
Oh yeah.
Good stuff.
Kind of everywhere we go. That was kind of what solidified this place so much, because we just kept making friends, and
when
even
we were just camping on the point.
I mean, even people that were just camping or whatever were just like made really solid friends here. Out of all the places, I stayed in San Pedrito for 3 weeks, and I didn't make that as many friends as I did here.
And there's Maddie for pizza if you need
Oh yeah,
a little.
pizza night. Yeah.
Pizza night was a key factor, and also his daughter and Fern hit it off, so they're really good buds, and that's been fun having that whole. That's another element is you have Italian culture a little bit, and
And horses.
and they have horses.
Casa Venezia, yeah? Or is it Casa
See.
San Venezia?
No, I think you had it right the first time.
Casa Venezia, shout out. Maddie.
I call it Mattia, Pizzeria Mattia.
Pizzeria Mattia, Slow Baja alum, Slow Baja approved.
Here at Slow Baja, we can't wait to drive our old Land Cruiser south of the border. And when we go, we'll be going with Baja Bound Insurance. Their website's fast and easy to use. Check them out at bajabound.com. That's bajabound.com, serving Mexico travelers since 1994.
So Pachico Eco Tours, that's in San Ignacio. The Pachico Eco Tours, which is one of the reasons why I ended up down here, is I read about Don Pachico, who is the man who started whale watching. Okay, he had a whale come up, bump his boat, and he was like, "What's going on?" And the whales were like, "You don't mess with the whales. They're known as Diablo, right?" And that was partly because what Richard Scammon did was trapped all the whales in the Laguna and decimated the population, right? But so in 1968, 72, somewhere in there, Don Pacheco is out fishing with a friend. Whale bumps his boat. He's like, what do I do? And he waited and looked at this whale at the edge of his boat. And he touches the whale after 20 minutes, and he realized the whale liked it. And he started petting it. And he just decided, like, this is what I want to do. And he's the man who started it before it became even some kind of tourist thing. And I just was enamored with the story, because one of the things he talks about is the compassion of the animal that was decimated by man, and that the whale came to man in a kind of, to me, it was like a metaphor for what forgiveness is really all about. And I thought it was just a beautiful story. And I wanted to go down and touch one of those whales myself. And but anyway, so we go do the whale watching, and then we come here, and I'm like, I didn't really want to come here. And one day I'd really hurt my rib surfing. I mean, it was so stupid. I was like screaming, and I'm like, you're here to surf. You must surf. And I made myself paddle out. And when I do, this guy comes on a motorbike with a ratchet strap around his board. He's a local, and he's got a ratchet strap, and he's just hauling ass, with this bike, and comes off of the motorbike, gets into the water, and he paddles by me. And he says, ¿Qué tal? And I'm like, oh, man, I don't speak that good of Spanish, I was like, oh, bien. And these other people from L.A. are like, man, you see that fucking local? That local's got no shoes or booties on. And I'm like, well, he's local, like you can walk across the reef. Anyway, guy catches waves, and I'm like, man, really good surfer. And he's like 50-something. And he paddles in, and I paddle in. My ribs totally hurting. And I look, and I'm just going to walk past this guy. I'm not going to talk to him. Man, just turn around. I walked 15 feet past him, and then I said, you know what? I'm just going to turn around. I turn around, and I look at him. I said, those were some really nice waves you caught. And he said, oh, thank you very much. In perfect English, I'm like, oh, man, there's my dumb judgments. And we start talking. He's like, well, why are you here? And I start telling him about this guy, Don Pacheco. I'm like, man, this Don Pacheco guy, blah, 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 blah. And I read every National Geographic thing. There's a Christopher Reeves documentary. There's all this stuff. And then he says, that's my dad.
No way.
I like,
come on.
Híjole, like, you got to be kidding me, And I'm
he
just
lives
like,
literally
right over
2
there.
blocks away now.
Yeah. So it's just been it was such an interesting thing, because there's a confluence of all these things of like, boy, I was coming down here surfing whales, and then meeting him, and then we just had long conversations about whales and his dad, and then told me more about his story. His family's story is very rich. Yeah.
And you got off deep into Melville, and you've got a whale. You got a crush. You got
yeah.
a thing. You're there.
Yeah. So I'd read that, or I'd heard that, if you really want to get into philosophy, which I've kind of always been into, read Melville, and I did, and it's a very moving book. It's a trip. He was just such a great writer. It's a sad story too, because what ends up happening, Melville wasn't popular at all in his lifetime. He was basically just a loser at the end of it, Not a loser, but he really wanted Moby Dick to be his magnum opus, and it wasn't until like there's a guy named Kent. I think Kent Rollins was his name, or he's a wood carving. Have you seen these before? They're like relief cuts, and then you ink them, and then you put the paper on top.
Yeah. Woodcuts.
Yeah, woodcuts. Thank you. But his book and his woodcuts of Moby Dick is what made it popular. And he was a sailor, and they're just magical, magical, just like the book. Yeah.
We're gonna leave it right there.
Yeah. Hey, Slow Baja listeners and Mike. This is Hallie and Austin and kids. We really enjoyed our first year in San Juanico as of November 15th, I think. We've been here a whole year. Right now it's currently January 5th, but it's just been a real joy, watching the holidays with all the locals and learning Spanish and watching our kids learn Spanish. Surf's been okay. Could be better.
Hallie here. I just wanted to offer the first year we was settling in, living into this remote place, but I definitely am happy that I feel like the kids and I all get a lot more time outside. But my favorite thing has actually really been getting to learning the traditions of the locals here, and we get to partake in them since the kids are in school. And one big thing is the elders are amongst the community, and you see them walking down the street, and you talk to them, and they're always have a happy face. They walk a little slower, and you hold the door for them. And especially out at the ranches, the elders, is a real joy to be around them and learn from them and their ways that they've done for, I'm not sure how many generations, but generations back.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I had that in the U.S., and I feel so grateful that my children get to witness it firsthand, and I'm witnessing it for the first time myself. So that's probably my greatest joy of being here right now, that I'm super grateful for.
Hey, well, I hope you like that show. Wow. Yeah. Nice update there. Beautiful life. Things are great. Getting a chance to meet the elders in San Juanico. Sounds pretty good because, it's 25 below right now in Chicago. I've been out a couple times today and it is absolutely frigid. So even mediocre surf in San Juanico, living down there sounds awfully good. If you like what I'm doing, please take a minute. Drop a taco in the tank. And, I know everybody doesn't have tacos. I know it. So if you don't have a taco in the tank, your job right now, click on to Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Drop a 5-star review. Tell people why you're listening to the show, why you like it. 130-something shows, 100,000+ downloads. Thanks for listening. Please help me keep this show going. Drop a taco in the tank or drop a 5-star review. And if you got a second, get over to slowbaja.com. I got all sorts of fun things. I got trips there now. You can go on Slow Baja Adventures. You can come with me in February on the Slow Baja, or you can come with me in October if you got something cool and old on the Slow Baja Vintage Expedition Baja Sewer Edition. But I've got hats, I've got t-shirts, I've got stickers, I've got sweatshirts if you're a bigger guy. I've still got some sweatshirts in big guy sizes. And I've got some new merch coming. So get on to slowbaja.com, buy something for yourself. And thank you for listening. Thank you for repping the show. And I got to tell you about Slow Baja alum, Mary McGee. We're still pretty close to the new year here. She went to a New Year's Eve party back in '62, and she was talking to Steve McQueen. He's a pretty cool cat. And Mary's pretty cool. And Steve said, Mary, you got to get off that pansy road racer motorcycle you've got and come out to the desert and ride dirt bikes. And she did. And she got damn good at it. Now she's an off-road motorsports Hall of Famer. But what I'm getting to is Steve McQueen. He loved Baja. And he said, Baja's life. Anything that happens before or after is just waiting. People always ask me, what's the best modification that I've ever made to Slow Baja? Without a doubt, it's my Shieldman seats. Toby at Shieldman USA could not be easier to work with. He recommended a Vario F for me and a Vario F XXL for my navigator Ted, as Ted's kind of a big guy. And Toby was absolutely right. The seats are great and they fit both of us perfectly. And let me tell you, after driving around Baja for over a year on these seats, I could not be happier. Shieldman, Slow Baja approved. Learn more and get yours at shieldman.com.